Hello everyone, welcome to Inktober Day 4. This will be the first time I've used a microphone in a video. I can't promise I'll do a voiceover for every video that I make, but I wanted to give it a go. Anyways, I did a drawing today for the first time ever using a dip pen. So this will be a first reaction video and not a tutorial. I don't think I'm qualified to teach anything about these types of pens because I'm just starting out myself. The person I'm drawing is one of my original characters. His name is Gaze, and he's an antagonist in my story. Not necessarily evil or good, just spurred on by his own ambitions over the course of the story. Okay, so I might have told a little lie. This isn't my first time using a dip pen, but my second time. However, I don't really count the first time since I was younger, and I didn't know what I was doing. The nib size was way too small, and I made really scratchy lines with hardly any ink coming out, so I didn't do a good job of using it. Thus, I decided they were simply too hard to use, and put them away to take them out another day. And that brings us to today. I'm using this year's Inktober as an excuse to try new things, and I swore to myself that I would finally learn how to use a dip pen. This will be my first piece using one after all I've learned. I will say that I had a lot of misconceptions about them. For one, I expected that it would be extremely messy to use, so that's why I was hesitant to use them. However, throughout the entirety of this piece, I didn't have a single speck of black ink on me. I was so prepared for a big mess. I prepared paper towels ready, took precautions in case a spill happened, everything. But I learned that there's no mess to be had as long as you're careful. I even placed my hand over areas I thought it wouldn't be dry, and it didn't feel wet at all. I think for a really clumsy person it might be a different story as far as messes though. So make sure not to spill your ink bottle. Take precautions. The second misconception I had was that it would be really easy to get different line thicknesses throughout the piece, and that the different size nibs wouldn't matter. It actually doesn't. A lot of the time, I actually struggle to get those kinds of lines. I'm honestly not sure how people do it. These types of pens are definitely hard to learn and aren't recommended for beginners. My third misunderstanding was that you need to learn how to control the pen. What I mean is that the pen knows what it wants to do. And it's not about you controlling it, but how you let it do what it wants to do. I tried to approach some lines like I would with a technical pen, a fine-tipped marker, and it just wasn't working. I was trying to get some solid lines throughout, and I regretted it because I wasn't playing to the pen's strengths. These type of pens are good at getting nice thin strokes and curves that taper off, and it gives a nice look. You have to hold it the right way too, because it doesn't like moving in certain angles. I regret not realizing this sooner. I was only focused on the issue of how to get thicker lines, since I was using the biggest size nib that I had. Were they fun to use? Yes, it was fun to play around with the lines and see what the pen could do. Would I use it on a day-to-day basis? I don't know. I love my technical pens and how they're easy to use and give consistent lines, but I think these kinds of pens are fun to bust out and try once in a while. I regret not doing so sooner. When it came to coloring the piece, I decided to get a little creative with my India ink and check out one of my paintbrushes. It's a cheap one, so I wanted to spare if I ruined it, and I used my ink like paint. And it wasn't what I expected. Don't get me wrong, I love the warm gray color that resulted from doing this, but it wasn't what I thought would happen. I was expecting pure black to lay down as prepared to do shadow blocks in areas, so I was a little bummed out that I couldn't put my brush in and get pure black. There were times where I got a really dark gray after getting too much ink on my brush, but all that ended up doing was warping my paper. I'm using a mixed media pad, so I'm a little disappointed it couldn't handle some water and ink on the page, and after I laid down the ink, it acted a lot like watercolor. I tried to get back in and maybe add some black with my dip pen to his hair, but I was having trouble laying ink on top of that layer and I was afraid I would chip the ink, so I stopped. Defeated, I just took out my brush pens to get my darkest darks at the end. I really wanted to do some cross-hatching with this pen, so maybe the next piece I do will have it. We'll have to see. I won't be only using dip pens this month since I want to try other things too, such as ballpoint pens and some techniques, such as coloring first and doing the line art afterwards. I'm looking forward to those. Stay tuned. So overall, I'm content with this piece. It didn't turn out like I expected it to, but that isn't always a bad thing. As I said, I really like the color gray that came out from the ink. My line work with the pens could take some work though, and I'll probably improve on that as I go. Learning anything, even when you're good at drawing, it takes time. Different mediums require different knowledge, and I don't have it yet. But that's okay. It takes time to learn anything. Never rush yourself. You have a lot of time in your life to learn everything. You're not gonna master anything right after picking something up. So I'll be using dip pens more throughout this month, so maybe I'll get better at using them and learn some techniques after some time. Who knows, maybe I'll put out some tutorials once I master them, if that ever happens. Who knows, and maybe I'll get to that point. Be sure to like and subscribe and all that stuff, since I'll be making a video for every day for the month of October. Thank you for watching.